Dorothy, the first item on our agenda this evening is a proposed nuisance ordinance, and I think we are going to turn it over to Dean Ephraim,
All right.
our chief.
I had an email exchange and some subsequent questions about the history with noise from staff, from Beth, and I spoke with Jill, and they asked if I would come to the meeting and just give them. Okay. I heard somebody in the background. Sounded familiar. To just go over, because the noise and the peace and good order nuisance ordinance is a little confusing. Very quickly, the overview. The actual noise ordinance is a health department issue, which has to do with a DEP noise pollution ordinance. It's enforced by the health department, not the police department. It has to do with decibel readings, and most often it is related to things such as transformers, HVAC compressors, refrigeration unit, commercial loading and unloading operations. And it requires someone to come out and take decibel readings. 25 years ago, when this ordinance was written, they had a local borough employee who they sent to be trained as a noise enforcement officer, got him a decibel meter, and they were having him come out and do this type of enforcement. What happened was he was very rarely called out, and on those few occasions when he was called out, the violations were unsubstantiated. When his certification ended, the decision was made they wouldn't recertify him and we would just use county health services. So that's the noise ordinance. As far as the nuisance ordinance under chapter 154, peace and good order, what we currently have is very clear and straightforward. Judge Suarez and I, when Judge Suarez was our borough attorney, worked on this extensively because our previous borough ordinance was vague and unenforceable, and it was consistent with ordinances back in 2017 that were being challenged by the ACLU and overturned, mostly related to issues down at the Jersey Shore. He did extensive research, almost came up with an ordinance, and then there was a published court decision that knocked it out of the box, and he rewrote it again and came up with what we have today. In the simplest terms, it's straightforward. An officer would have to witness the violation personally to act on it. Any borough ordinance, we can't go by what people tell us, we have to witness it personally, and the officer would have to be able to hear the noise from the street during certain hours. I will point out, we get maybe 3 or 4 noise complaints a month, if that. In 99% of the time, if it's determined to have merit and occurring within Glen Rock, there's nothing we can do about noise from Patterson. 99% of the time, the officers are able to resolve the issue between the parties involved. The other 1% of the time, you're dealing with unreasonable people, one or both of them, and no ordinance is going to solve the problem. The proposed amendment, which has been tabled, is not something that could be enforced by the police department. There is no way an officer could be present for an extended period of time, which is vague in and of itself, and vague doesn't play well in court where the standard of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. There is a reference to a 3-hour interval. As Jen did point out, there's no way an officer is going to be able to sit there for 3 hours and time the noise. And there's no possible way for an officer to determine a period of 6 hours in a given week. No officer would be able to take enforcement action under this provision. The complainant would have to go before the court administrator, sign a complaint under oath, and if the court found probable cause, they would have to come to municipal court and prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Based upon my over 40 years experience as a police officer, I don't see that playing well in municipal court. I think the proposed amendment is going to create an unrealistic expectation on the part of some citizens that they will be able to make complaints, most often anonymous, and that the police department will be able to go out there and act on those complaints, which is not the situation. Even where the complainants identify himself, an officer cannot act based simply on one citizen's account of what happens. Beyond the borough code, we are regulated by Attorney General's guidelines, which restrict our response to complaints made by one citizen alleging actions by another citizen before we can act. I'll point out that even if a borough ordinance summons is issued, the noise may continue. Unless there is another more serious violation, we can't enter onto private property and make the noise stop. You know, if someone's having an anniversary party in their backyard with a band, we can't go and plug the amp. We can issue a summons and they can say, yeah, I'll see you in court. I've spoken with Seth, we had a very nice conversation about this, and I agree with his position that in those rare cases, and again, I'm talking about 1% of the cases, the aggrieved resident would be better served by filing a civil action in the Superior Court where the burden of proof is far lower. They could obtain a civil restraining order with noise abatement. If the defendant doesn't appear in court, they can get a judgment by default. The standard is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If the noise continues beyond that point, the complainant can file a motion in support of a violation of litigants' rights, and the Superior Court judge has far more authority to act on what then would become a contempt of court proceeding at the Superior Court level. The Superior Court has far more jurisdiction and power than any municipal court does. No disrespect to the municipal court, it serves a very vital role and is the entry point of the criminal justice system. As police officers, we are not allowed to become involved in civil matters other than being subpoenaed as an independent witness. And when I say that, I mean independent witness. We don't take anybody's side. And I will tell you from decades of experience, this is a no-win situation where nothing will be accomplished, and the passage of this proposal is not going to get you what you're looking for. It is not going to work. That's it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, when there is a break-in, an accident, the police will go and get camera, video from surrounding neighbors. True?
In the case of a crime, yes.
In the case of a crime. Would this not be something that could be done? Like with an extended camera taping? I'm trying to understand how it's might be different.
You cannot compare violations of the New Jersey Code of Criminal Justice or the New Jersey State Motor Vehicle Code, state law regarding leaving the scene of a motor vehicle accident with a borough ordinance. Two completely different laws.
As a question of a scope of powers, but also an allocation of resources, 2C violations are just.
Yeah.
Just want to understand how that.
And the other thing is, in all honesty, do you think the judge is going to sit in court and listen to for 3 hours?
Well, I would hope that they could look at the time on it, but I don't think
It, for a
do
borough
that.
ordinance
That's
violation, is
like-
not practical.
Yeah.
If I could just add on to that, the civil aspect as well is important. So if we're talking about video camera footage, which would substantiate or in any way assist with the prosecution of that action, the plaintiff, the aggrieved resident, could subpoena that footage from neighbors, which is easy enough to do. Pretty straightforward. I don't think that the crime versus civil really is going to affect the availability of that footage.
Anybody at the table have questions?
Are we looking to amend this, or are we just going to?
I think it was previously discussed, there was a statement made that the chief had concerns about it, so we wanted to have the opportunity for the entire table and for, the public to hear from the chief. So I don't know that there needs to be any action,
I'd like to make a motion to table this.
Second.
well, I mean, it's not proposed for action.
It's not on there.
Oh, I mean, if it's not on this.
But
that's
it's
fine.
something that keeps coming up, and I do agree that maybe it's time to just decide that we've tried many different ways and not been able to come up with a way that would address the particular situation at hand in a way that's satisfactory, and maybe we should just agree
We can make a motion to
stop
table something
on
at
that.
any point.
Right, that we don't need to keep coming back to
Table
it.
it in-
But table it indefinitely with the understanding that we're not taking action on this issue.
Before we do that, I just want to ask resident if they have any questions. No? Okay, that was that, that's it. So, are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table the issue indefinitely with the understanding that the council's not taking action on this.
Second,
Today.
call the roll.
Well, I'm sorry, I guess now I'm not really clear.
Me
on what
neither.
the motion is.
So, if you want, if you would like to take a vote on it, I think you would probably just make a motion that we not move forward with any amendment at this time.
Okay, I mean, I'm not saying that I wanna limit what we're allowed to do in the future, I just
Right.
think that we
Yeah.
should probably stop spinning our wheels. I don't know if that requires a motion, really.
It doesn't, but if we wanna have one, that's fine, but I would just say, you know, a motion not to move forward with amendment at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm abstaining.
Then can you call the roll?
Councilmember Martin?
Abstain.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yeah.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the Doremus Double Yellow. Okay, you're up.
You want me to speak, or you want the chief to speak first?
No, I want you to speak first.
That's fine. My name is Gabriel.
You can come have a seat.
Come
Hey, it's
sit.
John.
Come sit.
Sit.
Will the chief be speaking later?
Chief will be speaking later.
Okay, then I reserve the right to come back and speak to him again, okay? My name is Gabriel Deliro. I live at 512 Doremus Avenue. Welcome, everyone. This issue concerning double yellow line arose just the end of June 30th. I've been living on Doremus Avenue for 45 years. I've seen the road being constructed and repaired and repaid 3 times already, usually every 10 to 15 years. So every time they repaved it, it looked beautiful, it was nice, blacktop, no problem. This time I wake up one day on June 30th and I see double yellow lines on it. It was amazing, I couldn't believe it. I said, what the hell is this? How'd this come about? So then my neighbors and I started to talk, and we realized that something's wrong here. Why did this happen? We didn't know. There was no notification ahead of time. There was no reason to do it, in my opinion, and we were shocked, okay? So unbeknownst to you people, we gathered the neighbors, Doremus Avenue, a very good group of people, community oriented, with children, families, etc. So we're concerned. And we decided to do something about it. What we decided to do was, the best course of business was to file a petition with signatures from people from Doremus Avenue mostly, but across the whole town. People are concerned about this because it's got to do with traffic. And we filed a petition, and then we requested the council to set a date at your convenience. I did not say what date or whatever, but honestly, I was surprised that you did it so quickly. I filed the papers on Thursday or Friday of last week, and good thing I was in town yesterday, and I stopped by Jackie's office, and I inquired about, Jackie, did we get a date for the agenda meeting yet? She says, yeah, it's tomorrow. Yesterday, I was told that it was today. So we had exactly 24 hours to gather some people together, and hopefully, who's here for the double yellow line? Oh, you see? See how community reacts. You know, they really react that it comes together because it's a very important issue to them. Basically, what it comes down to is that we don't think it's necessary. I understand that everyone that's in favor of it is saying that it was a safety issue. But the word safety has different meanings to everybody else, okay? There's a definition. Just because you say safety doesn't mean we have to bow down to it. So we investigated it, and we decided that it's less safe now than it was before the double yellow lines. And you'll hear from people, they'll explain to you and testify that they've seen more speeders now on Doremus than before the double yellow lines. So that's proof positive. It's not circumstantial evidence, it's just proof positive that these double lines are not gonna work to stop speeders. And in fact, I have the manual of uniform traffic control device, which is at your leisure, you could read it if you want. Basically, but it has all the rules concerning devices that are placed for traffic control. It's very interesting. I didn't know much about it before, but I learned a lot, okay? And basically, just to give you some background, and then the chief will talk about it later, I'm sure. What you're supposed to do before you put double yellow line as a town is you're supposed to do a survey or have a traffic study, because the manual dictates that if it's over 6,000 cars per day, the results are 6,000 per car. And the chief could verify this, he knows more than I do. Then you should put double yellow line, right? If it's 4,000, then it's optional. If it's between 2 and 4,000, then you don't need it. You don't need it. I don't know what the number is. I'll be happy to hear if anybody in this room knows the number that the traffic results came out with. Does anyone know? Do you know?
Mr. Villar, maybe if you could just make your statements, we're not really gonna do call and
I'm
response.
building a case to show that this double yellow line is unsafe and it should be removed, okay?
What are
The-
some of your,
Sorry?
are you going to give some rationale behind why it's not safe?
Sure, I can jump in.
No, actually.
No, I'll go.
To everybody.
I'll go with some details, okay? But the chief will have to verify this. Doremus Avenue is not a county road. It's a regular municipal road, under our control. Okay, I asked Lenora earlier if she would stipulate, and she did, she was kind enough, this way we save some time for questioning, et cetera. That, I understand that the road was repaved through a state grant. But the state grant had no conditions concerning the striped roads, the striped lines. There's no conditions about that. That was a separate item that, I don't know who decided to do it that way. I'd be curious to find out. I assume that the chief has some say-so, and I'm not being disparaging, I assume you had some say-so because of safety reasons. But here's what happened. The road is 30 feet wide. Anybody can correct me if they don't. I just measured it myself to verify that it is 30 feet wide, so maybe some people saw me out in the street, I didn't get hit by a car. But it's 30 feet wide. The double yellow line is placed right in the middle, 15 feet. I measured that also, okay? Now, if you're familiar with the area, Doremus by the pool, by the paper field, and the Arboretum, I think that's the west side of the road, right? That area? That's the west side of the road?
I'll let you finish and I'll say what I have
Okay,
to say.
that's the west side of the road, I call it the west side. There is parking permitted there all day long, except at nighttime, overnight, right? But you could park the vehicles, and they do, during the games, during the pool, during recreation, and even where I live on Doremus, I could park my vehicle there all day, and anybody else on the street could park, on the west side. The east side, which is, the northern, going north, there's no parking. However, you'll see it yourself, I see witness every day, people will stop their car, go to their home, stay for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, nobody really bothers anybody, but people do park there. So you have a situation where you have a road that's 30 feet wide, double yellow line in the middle. By the way, double yellow line's meaning of it is that you're not allowed, permitted to pass another vehicle. It doesn't mean that it's gonna stop speeders, not at all. Actually, it's the opposite effect, because with the lines, it looks like it's more commercial, it looks like it's more of a highway, and people will go faster. So, my definition of safety is that those lines don't belong there. They do not belong there, they should be removed. So, let me go back to the parking. The parking on the west side, a vehicle usually takes 8 feet, that's what the manual says, 8 feet of space to park. Now you're left 15 center line, 8 feet for the vehicle, you're left with 7 feet where a vehicle has to travel to get on that way. The other side will remain at 15 feet where there's no parking. So I have a picture here so you can see it, I'm sure you understand it. My photography is not the best, but this is a picture of where the vehicles is the west side, where the cars are located. And so visualize coming from Ackerman, which that would be traveling south toward the Rock, okay? A vehicle if all, let's say the whole street was full of parked cars, which is permitted, the vehicle must, because there's only 7 feet of distance, the vehicle must travel on the other side of the double line to get through. That's unsafe. That's ridiculous. That's an accident ready to happen. And if that were to happen one time or many times, the town, the borough would be responsible because of this defect in the way you presented the lines. Okay? My position is to have them removed, not to fix it. In other words, you can fix it, let's say if you move the lines across over 2 or 3 feet or 4 feet over. This way you have more space for the cars parked and the vehicles traveling. You understand? So, that's the biggest safety issue that I'm concerned with, and it should be removed. You could look, if anybody wants to look at the picture, you can. So I would be really curious to find out what the results of the survey that, if one was taken, as far as the number of vehicles that travel per day on the Remus is. Because then we could actually, figure out in the metrics and numbers if it warrants it. I don't know if this survey was done, I don't know if the traffic study was done, but I would be curious. And I also would like to be curious is that what input the council had with this issue.
None.
None? How could you have none? You're the leaders of the community.
Because we don't have. Alright.
Okay, well, you said, I'm answering you.
Alright.
All right, so basically, I don't want to take much more time, because other people want to speak, and I know we're limited with time here, so it's only 7 feet wide, that travel area. The cars, and I've seen it, I already experienced it many, many times, the cars do go across, and that's very dangerous, because you got one car going south, traveling on the other vehicle's road, and the other vehicle from this, that's an accident ready to kill people. All right, thank you. Any questions I have, I'm glad to answer, but I think that's it for now.
Thank you.
Oh, one thing I wanted to fail to mention, Lenora, so that people don't have too many questions. The grant, I did mention it, the grant has nothing to do with the strike line, so nobody should ask any questions about the grant. By the way, thank you for the work on the grant, because that was very good for the council. I'm sure you got some part in it. That was great. We didn't have to pay a nickel to have that road paved, and that's a plus. So I don't want you to think I'm going to leave on the positive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith?
Okay. The police department's traffic safety specialist, Sergeant McGovern, who is our expert in this area, and is a graduate of the Rutgers School of Traffic Engineering for police officers, though not a licensed engineer. There are limits to what he can do. Works regularly in cooperation with the borough engineer on road safety projects in accordance with the authorities set forth for the police department under Title 39 and the New Jersey Safe Routes to School program on Title 18A. Among the objectives is to create a safer and more appealing conditions for walking and cycling as well as vehicular traffic. The law provides that police are stakeholders during the review and modification process for traffic control measures. The police contribute in ensuring that traffic control plans include these safety measures. The training and experience of our officers, as well as our hands-on knowledge of Glen Rock's road systems, are coupled with the engineering judgment on the part of the borough engineer, which are an essential part of any traffic program. The engineer is responsible to coordinate the overall program. As an older community, our roads were never designed to support the traffic volume that we have in the 21st century. In the older areas of town, all they did is pave the wagon trails that existed in 1894. Most of our road systems were not designed. Traffic and parking volume are not going away, and there are no perfect solutions that will please everybody. In this case, our traffic safety supervisor began working with the borough engineer in the very early stages of the Doremus Avenue project, which was broken into 2 phases over a couple of years. There were also delays due to the fact that Ridgewood Water was digging up the street to replace a water line and issues with PSE&G. When evaluating the road conditions, the one thing that was done by both the engineer and our traffic safety supervisor is urging is we examined the non-residential usage of Doremus Avenue. That includes our parks and recreation facilities, the Arboretum, the Nature Center, Children's Park, the pool, upper favor, lower favor, the Fisher baseball field, the dog park. These are the most expansive amenities that we provide for our residents in this community, and most of them are all in one location. They are frequented by children, adults, and seniors. There is a generally consistent traffic flow of pedestrians, cycles, and vehicles entering and exiting during peak hours of operation. School routes. It is a designated school route for both schools in Glen Rock and Ridgewood. For those who are not familiar, Ridgewood has a school on Orchard right off of Doremus. And at the other end, you have Bird School, plus you have children walking to the middle school, the high school. I know with districting, some walk to Central School. The DPW. The DPW has 3 facilities along Doremus Avenue. They include the yard, the recycling center, the DPW annex, which is our old landfill that's been converted to an annex for DPW equipment. These are industrial type facilities with large equipment. There is the cell tower with the ground enclosure. There is truck traffic. We have our own garbage trucks, dump trucks, roll-off container transportation, construction equipment, cranes, specifically when they're doing work on the cell tower. There are tractor trailers delivering work materials to the borough yard in the daytime, as well as the DPW does come out at night for emergency call-outs, plus our fire trucks, ambulances, and police vehicles refuel at the borough yard 24/7 as needed. It is a thoroughfare between 2 county roads. Doremus Avenue connects Rock Road, County Road 134, with Ackerman Avenue, County Road 79, and serves as a bypass for those wishing to avoid the vehicle and train traffic in the central business district. The general average traffic count is about 1,800 vehicles a day. Surprisingly enough, or not surprising, a larger number of vehicles, for whatever reason, are going north into Ridgewood as opposed to south coming into Glen Rock. The average mean speed, and I'm saying average, is about 23 miles an hour since the double yellow lines are installed. Now, one of the things that we do is every time we pave a main thoroughfare in town, right after that's done, we always put officers out on radar details. Why? Well, people are used to dodging the potholes and slowing up for the defects in the roadway. There's a nice paved road, there's a propensity, people, wow, I didn't realize I was going that fast. So we always put traffic enforcement details out. The officers have stopped a couple of dozen cars. There's really nothing, earth-shattering. During the planning process, our traffic safety specialist brought forward a number of safety improvements that the police department wanted to see. This included permanently mounted radar speed signs on either side of Faber Field, which we found to be very effective, and we wanted a mid-block crosswalk in the proximity of the pool, because there is no place near any of those recreation complexes where there is a crosswalk, and the nearest cross streets are Dowell Court and Leon Court. The engineer worked with us to find the correct location. The crosswalk is going to be enhanced with the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. For the rest of us in the room, those crosswalk flashers. As soon as they arrive, Sergeant McGovern will be working with the DPW to install them. Crosswalk flashers are recommended to be installed in conjunction with double yellow lines in the center of the road to deter vehicles lined up in the queue from passing another vehicle that stopped for a pedestrian. That is the recommended way of putting them in. Prohibiting passing helps prevent collisions. The double yellow lines are critical for road marking maintenance and safety. There is no data, there is no factual finding, and I confirmed this with our actual traffic engineer and our traffic safety officer, that double yellow lines encourage people to speed. There is no factual data to support that. Our borough Our borough roadways, other borough roadways have been addressed in similar fashion. This would include Radburn Road, which is adjacent to the high school field complex, which is probably the second biggest facility in the borough. We have done this on the boulevard. We've done this on Main Street, which are high-volume roadways similar to our county roads. These considerations are essential in providing for traffic safety. This is a continuing initiative on the part of our borough engineer, probably one of the better borough engineers we've had in my tenure as chief, and the police department traffic safety supervisor. When making these recommendations, decisions are made in good faith based upon our evaluation of what the best interests are for the people as a collective, not based upon the desire of any one person or group of persons. Public safety decisions are based upon the larger issues. As far as the width of the roadway, and this is from the engineer, the width of Doremus Avenue is 30 feet. 14 feet of parking and 16 feet in the travel portion of the roadway. There's 8 feet in each directions for vehicles to pass each other, and that meets appropriate standards according to the engineer. Now, if someone parks too far from the curb, we've certainly had that. That is the rationale that was behind what went on. This was not decided in a vacuum. It was not decided quickly. This was a long, ongoing project where our traffic safety sergeant worked with the borough engineer on this, and this was not the only project that they were working on at the time. So that is the information behind it.
So bottom line, it was a public safety decision
Yes, it was.
to, and given the volume of residents who speak up about car speeding, traffic safety, I'm assuming it's something that you're all very focused on.
Yes. And one of the things that we are looking at, not just here in Glen Rock, this is a statewide issue. It's been recognized that our roadways can't handle the traffic. And again, there are no perfect solutions, but be it on the municipal level, county level, and state level, we need to do upgrades to our roadways as best we can. We can't go back in the DeLorean to 1894 and redo all the streets. Can't happen. There is no perfect solution, but at all levels, our roadways need to be improved. There need to be safety enhancements. I will tell you, I'm here 39 years. The traffic has increased exponentially. Foot traffic, vehicle traffic, more people than ever working from home. It used to be in the summer, it was like after the July 4th parade, they hit the evacuation button and you didn't see anybody again until they came home for back to school sales and to get their kids back to school. It's not like that anymore. Doremus Avenue, right now in the summer, we have the volume of traffic for the pool and the other amenities. When the pool closes, the schools are open and the pool traffic gets replaced with school traffic. So these are the decisions that we made. They were made for public safety, and we certainly recognize that we're not gonna make a decision that will please everybody. There's no way to do that.
The speed humps, they're gone,
They're gone.
and so I wonder,
Why?
were they helpful in decreasing
No.
the speed?
The police department's position is we do not support speed humps. They cause more problems than they solve, and as I'm sure Bob will tell you, it is a maintenance issue, and it is also in the winter a snow removal issue. It's, and one of the reasons we put the electronic speed signs down there is we have found that they are far more effective. And I have to credit retired Chief McCall from the Hawthorne Police Department because he's the one who recommended them to us. He actually had them recommended by his traffic safety officer, and he gave them a try, and he could not believe how effective they were.
And Dean, if I understand from things you said previously, traffic calming devices such as speed humps have gone out of vogue broadly.
Yes.
That it's not just here, this is, thinking about it has evolved.
Traffic humps belong in parking lots, not on public roadways.
And what do you find aside from because obviously speeding is a very big reoccurring issue that we hear from residents, we live it every day. we know that speeding is a major issue in our town, like it seems to be in most places right now, but you find that the signs, the flashing signs are the most effective, or what are you seeing that are most effective?
They are.
And
They are extremely effective. I mean, basically, it's public shaming, you know, and also, most people.
you mean the signs that have your speed limit?
Yeah, that your
That show
speed,
you.
and it spanks you when you're
Right.
going at or below the speed limit, and says slow down when you're, and by the way, we also have them set because we know that there's gonna be someone out there who says, I want to see if I can get to the triple digits, it stops at a certain speed. They can't do that. You know, that there's, you know, we factored that. The other thing is that those signs also record traffic data.
Great.
So, and you know, we're looking at stuff new that comes along, we're looking, you know, we're looking at, new equipment, we're looking at what's out there, we're constantly talking to the engineers, to other departments, to the state. There is a rethinking of how we're doing everything, and quite frankly, more serious, and what we find than the speeding and more prevalent is the distracted driving. And people who don't have the ability to park a car. I mean, it's, I can't explain it. It's like people forgot how to drive. And that is constantly what we're dealing with. I mean, one of the things, and I don't want to keep going, so I'm going to say, one of the things that we did downtown, when we redid downtown, is we widened the parking spaces because people couldn't get in and out of the parking spaces. So that's our report.
Okay. So I'm gonna open it up to questions. We will be orderly, and we will address the questions as best we can.
Or open
Huh?
you.
Are we gonna, we'll do it,
Well,
yeah,
You don't wanna
you
go
said I
around
could
the table.
come back and.
oh, I'm sorry, I do wanna go around the tables, sorry. Thanks.
Specifically on this?
If
No,
anybody has
just
any.
well, cause we're done with our agenda items, right, so before we
Yeah.
go to
There-
public, we go around.
There is one more agenda item that should have been on. It's a resolution that had been sent around concerning the sidewalks that I would like to discuss. So I understand that there's going to be a vote on the second reading as to the amended ordinance. I think that it's important for us to discuss this before we go out and it goes up for public comment. So it's all right, I'll circulate this around.
So are we done with the other topic?
We're not done with
No,
the
I'm not done with the other topic.
We
Why don't we
first
finish one topic?
We first go through
We're
the.
here.
We're here,
So,
everything's
right,
here.
there will be public comment, but we do, the way we always do work sessions is we go through the agenda items that are on the agenda, and then council members have the opportunity to do their work session, and then at the end of the meeting, we open up to any comments that anyone has.
Agreed, I just.
But this was on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
This is on the agenda.
This is on the
It's not
agenda.
an
It's on the agenda.
Gosh,
It-
but, so let's.
We're still
first-
continuing the agenda.
So first of all, we have not yet had the opportunity for any council member to ask a question on this topic.
Right,
So, Council President.
that was the point, this topic. Anybody at the table have a question?
Well, that was very informative, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I really appreciate it. That's all I have to say.
You're welcome, I'm glad to.
Okay. So I did not think this item was going on the agenda tonight, I thought it was, that the mayor did not put it on.
I had spoken with the mayor. She had shared with me that she supported it, and it was my understanding that it was going to be on the agenda.
So that was, I spoke with the mayor on this topic, and that was not my understanding either. My understanding was that, it was not to be placed on today's agenda, and it was not placed on the agenda that was circulated. I don't know if you responded to the agenda that was circulated, seeking an amendment to it, or if it was to be added. But that was my understanding of the agenda.
Then you should vote on it, it's on the agenda tonight.
If that's the case, then I'm going to move that we table the second reading of the amended ordinance as to the sidewalks.
That motion would be proper during the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Okay.
of the 8 o'clock.
My concern is that not discussing this item is stifling the discussion as to what the proper way forward is. So I have real concerns about that. This is a proposal that I think addresses a lot of the issues that members of the public are concerned about. And if folks at the table don't want to discuss it, fine. I'll put it out publicly and, there can be more debate about it.
So Councilman, there's two separate things, right? There's whether or not there's going to be a resolution for official action, and then there's whatever items the council wishes to discuss during council committee liaison report and, the usual contributions and issues raised by each member of the governing body during this work session.
Oh, indeed, and just to be clear, the resolution that's proposed would nullify the violation notices that have been issued to date, which I believe are not compliant with the existing ordinance. So I think that's an important housekeeping item before steps are taken to amend the ordinance. But if it's not up for discussion, I've said my piece.
I need to be clear, I'm not trying to make any statement about what the body may or may not discuss. All I'm saying is, for official action items, my understanding is the agenda as circulated and posted reflected the will of the membership.
Okay. In that case, I'll just forecast that I'll be moving to table the second reading of the amended ordinance.
But, if I may, in all of our work sessions, after we go through our agenda items, every council member has the opportunity to discuss what they would like to
Sure.
as part of our typical work session, things that are not necessarily on the agenda,
Yes.
but things that council members would like to discuss with the council in this
Right, or
more
things they're working on.
non-formal work session. And then at that point, after that happens, then we open up to the community, to residents, to discuss whatever is on their list.
Yes.
So that's what I was suggesting.
But I mean,
Set
yeah,
up.
that's our process, yes.
Right. So with that, he could bring this up during his portion of the time
Sure.
to discuss,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay,
Thought I,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Thought I said that, but yes.
Right, okay. Just wanted to clarify our procedures.
Yep.
So, everybody here, most people here are ready to talk about double yellows. So if we're gonna do something, we need to do it promptly. I wanna know who else has agenda items, because everybody here, most people, maybe not everybody, most people are here to talk about double yellows.
And the sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
Yeah. I thought sidewalks were on
So if
the
we're
agenda.
going around the table, I had something else that I wanted to mention. I don't know if we wanna do that before or after double yellow line. But I have heard a number of complaints recently, about the number of street trees that have been removed. And the fact is that as our trees get older and larger, more do need to be taken down. And so I had spoken to Bob Bono to see if it is practical for us to do an additional planting this fall, which he tells me that it is if we agree tonight to do that. And so I would like to suggest that we have our local open space trust fund that exists for the purpose of protecting and enhancing our open spaces. I think trees fall right within that. And what I would like to propose is that we do an additional planting this year with money from that trust fund, just on public land, staying away from anybody's properties or sidewalks or anything else, but in our parks, Borough Hall, by the train stations, whatever public spaces Bob feels are most appropriate, to replenish some of the tree canopy that has been minimized, a little cut into every year to try to work against that and plant more trees in town.
And this would be a double planting this year.
Right, this would be on top of the one that's budgeted.
Can we make a motion for that?
I would like to make a motion to do that.
I'll second.
I believe our budgeted amount was $35,000, so I would suggest taking another $35,000 from the open space trust for this.
All in favor of
Did anyone second?
I
second. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Thank you. That do anything else? Maureen, do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. This proposed resolution, which is being circulated, essentially recognizes, to the extent that the council wishes to consider it, the fact that, at least in my view and the view of a number of other people, that the violation notices that were issued by the Department of Public Works did not comply with the ordinance as is currently drafted. So the idea behind this is.
Is formally drafted,
Well,
not currently.
Well, I think Councilman's point is the amendment of that ordinance is on for second reading tonight. So as it was written at the time, violations were, or I shouldn't say violations, the notices were issued.
Right, and the title of the document being violation notice, and the way that the ordinance reads currently, and the new ordinance has not been enacted yet, it reads that the council must take action in order, by way of resolution, in order for a violation notice to be issued. I view it as patently unfair. It's not how things should have been done. I understand it may be historically how things have been done. This new ordinance remedies that. So the question is, for the outstanding violation notices, what do we do about them? And so my thought is, and that's by way of this resolution, is to nullify them and permit, now that there's going to be a published guideline as to the, what constitutes a violation with sidewalks, folks at the DPW can go back out and can see, comparing this against the published guidelines, whether the violations that were previously noticed are still violations. And to the extent that they are, the DPW and fine through the sidewalk inspector would be empowered to take these steps necessary. But that power was not there previously. And so I'm trying to address that. And part of this also speaks to what the policies as to sidewalks should take into account. Reasonableness, the likelihood of injury, and accessibility concerns for members of the public, the standards set by neighboring municipalities, and the economic burdens to be imposed on borough landowners as a result of implementing and enforcing the new standards. I think these are all things that are very important to take into consideration. This proposed resolution also calls for the Shade Tree Advisory Committee to undertake a review of the impact of borough planted trees on sidewalks in the borough, for the purpose of advising the council as to appropriate steps with regard to future planting of trees on sidewalks, addressing the intrusion of tree roots, and establishing future policies that balance the unique benefits of shade trees in the borough with public safety and economic realities. So I think that this is the prudent thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do, and I submit it for your consideration.
I think there's a couple things in here that are not, I don't want to use the word accurate, but don't reflect what was going on. So the standards that have been now memorialized are the same standards that have been used for decades. So they've been memorialized, they weren't in writing, but they're the same standards that we use. That's number one, right?
Respectfully, I'll disagree. We've had folks here who have said that the sidewalk inspector referenced a hair as being the standard. It's now being put into writing that it is between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. That's a pretty clear disparity. So my concern is that to the extent that violation notices were issued in the past under a very different standard, whether those violation notices stand even notwithstanding the lack of authority to issue them, I think that they need to be revisited.
Yeah, I would think that there are probably a significant number of slabs that would no longer be in violation
once you've applied the new policy or the policy that has been memorialized, because now we actually have an objective criteria.
Indeed, and my thought is that to the extent that this is being published and homeowners who are affected, property owners who are affected, can take a look at the policies, can go out with measuring tools, and to the extent that they're in compliance, it's a telephone call to our professionals at the DPW, and perhaps that the violation notices as they were previously issued they need to be changed.
Well, Nora, can you confirm, because I was told that somebody made an over request. There was only one sidewalk, reported, one home reported in 2024, but there have been 90 reported in 2025. Is that correct?
Again, I think the dates, there were dates included in
Yeah,
that open
that's how
request.
that's how
Each one of
Okay.
24 and each.
Nobody's asking,
We're
we're not asking you.
Shouting Alex.
Again, I have to defer to Jackie and Bob.
Yeah.
People at the table are speaking, that is not an invitation for the public to speak.
And again, I'll defer the question to the people that handle the open request.
Right. My name is Bob Lone, I'm the Director of Public Works. The Oprah request specifically asks for how many notices were given from January to June of 2024 and January to June of 2025. We don't give any other information than the information that is requested. And that was the results.
So that was the 1 versus 9.
Right.
And I guess
It doesn't account for the other.
I just wanted to ask that, in your research, I'm assuming that you spoke to this sidewalk inspector and the previous sidewalk inspector and the previous sidewalk inspector, that all confirmed all of the information that you received, I guess not from the Department of Public Works, but from other people in the public.
I'm not sure I understand the
Like,
question.
I'm not sure where the information came from.
Are you asking if I went back 30 years to speak with all the sidewalk
Well,
inspectors?
the assumption was that the measurements are a hair, and I'm not sure where that came from. So if you could tell us,
Sure.
so we could kind of figure out where, where that originated, it might be helpful. to be
Sure,
able
a
to-
few sessions ago, there was a gentleman sitting right behind me who said that that was the exact word that the sidewalk inspector used with him.
And did you confirm that with the sidewalk inspector? That that's the language that he used? Because sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, sometimes there's somewhat of a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of the conversations that happen. So I'm assuming that there was some confirmation.
Would you like me to depose the sidewalk inspector?
It's just a question.
Without
If you're gonna,
without a written policy to refer to, who's to say what the criteria was? That, there was no written policy, let me ask.
and if we weren't there to hear the conversation, who's to say he said a hair?
Right.
Okay, whether it's a hair or some other word.
I'm trying to help Bob, and I'm trying to help our professionals and our employees that come in and do this every day, because that's their job. And I'm just trying to understand how we get to a point where we're including them in the process of being able to move forward with this. That's really what I'm trying to get to, because we all want to move forward with this. But I think it's important for Bob and for his staff to kind of hear the full circle of what's happening.
I think that's fair. I also think that following our ordinances is incredibly important.
And again, I agree with following the ordinance, but unfortunately, I think that the language reflects 1974 language.
I mean, yeah, the language is, I think, not clear, which is one of the reasons why we talked about in several meetings, amending the ordinance, to make it track what, is widely done across the state, and to make it, consistent with other property code violations where, removing the, small p politics from it, right? The idea of a governing body voting on whether or not a particular property has a property code maintenance, property maintenance issue, right, is inherently problematic.
I agree with you completely.
Right. So, Mr. Smith is, friends with, councilperson A, he doesn't get a violation. Mrs. Jones is, not friends with councilperson B, she does get a violation. So, I mean, I think there's probably two sets of issues, right? There's the standards by which, the actual compliance of the sidewalk is evaluated. And then there's the process for improving sidewalks that are found to be problematic under the code. So the three things that the proposed ordinance on second reading does is, A, it removes that from, governing body resolution, right? Which I think everyone, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think everyone was sort of on the same page that would be appropriate. It extends the period of time where a sidewalk would need to be remedied. So the ordinance before amendment says 30 days from the time you get a notice. The proposed ordinance on second reading says from the time you get a notice, 45 days to get a permit, 60 days to fix it once you have a permit. So it basically triples the amount of time, which allows for, people who either need to make financial arrangements or just to find a contractor that's available and to get the work done. The other thing that it does is the current ordinance, the ordinance prior to any amendment, says that to the extent the work's not done, the borough shall do the work and charge the property owner. And again, that's not consistent with how we address other property code issues, right? If you have, the one that comes to mind most recently was we had a gentleman who had had a dangerous tree. And even he acknowledged it was just beyond his capability to remedy the issue. The borough removed it and we did lien that property. I think moving it from shall to may protects the property owner by giving the borough more opportunity to not have to go out and, make these decisions automatically, but have some discretion in what is going to benefit the overall public. All of that being said, and I understand the desire to revisit, discuss, explore the standards themselves, I'm not sure what we necessarily accomplish respectfully by deferring amending the ordinance to lengthen the time for repair, to give the borough that discretion, and to remove the need for the council resolution. I don't know that necessarily is helpful.
And just to be clear, I agree with how the new ordinance is drafted. I think it was very artfully drafted. The proposed resolution that we're talking about does not speak to the new ordinance. What it speaks to are prior non-compliant violation notices that were issued, in my opinion, outside of what the ordinance permits, as well as directing what should be taken into account in connection with publishing these guidelines. Because I've spoken with folks in other towns, I have taken a general survey as to what other towns are doing, and it does vary from municipality to municipality. And I think that these 4 things that I outlined should be taken into consideration. Now, the policy totally separate from what I think is the core here, and the core being that so-called violation notices were issued that deeply affect our residents. And without having a written policy in place, and without these violations at that time, as well as without having these violation notices issued in accord with what our ordinance requires, I think that it's crucial that they be rescinded, and that to the extent these violations still exist under a new ordinance, which I presume is going to be passed on second reading tonight, they can be revisited and noticed properly after the new ordinance is in place.
With the policy applied.
Correct.
So I'm just, because so I'm just trying to determine so are we still proposing, or is there still a proposal to table the ordinance on
No. So to be clear, when I was saying that I would propose to table the second reading of the ordinance, that was if this resolution was not up for discussion this evening. Because I believe it's essential that this be considered before the ordinance is enacted.
So when you say up for discussion, Councilman, are you satisfied with this discussion, or do you need for an official?
I would like a vote as to this resolution. I would like it to be considered this evening. If to the extent it cannot be considered this evening, then I will move to table the second reading of the proposed amended ordinance.
You know, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. If Dean Ackerman pulled me over for doing 35 in a 25 zone, and I look up and there's a 35-mile-an-hour sign right in front of my face, and I say, I wasn't speeding, and he goes into his trunk and pulls out a 25-mile-an-hour sign and slaps it up. That's essentially what we did. We issued the violations without, in violation of our own ordinance. And now we have a policy that can be applied. I think that we should get rid of those violations and revisit all those homes if necessary and apply the written policy, because I think a lot of those slabs may not be in violation.
Okay, I have to take issue in this idea that we issued these violation notices in contradiction to our ordinance. We didn't. We have delegated, as every council before us for the past 50 years has delegated to the sidewalk inspector, who is an expert who we hire for that purpose, to inspect the sidewalks according to the policy guidelines that they and their expertise see fit. And that's exactly what happened. It's not that we arbitrarily slapped a sign somewhere to harm or punish any of our residents.
That's what we're
We would never
doing.
do that.
That's what we're
The
doing. Of course
suggestion's
not.
really not.
I'm not suggesting that, but what I'm saying is, changing the ordinance now and applying the new ordinance to the previously issued violations is like slapping up the 25-mile-an-hour sign. We're changing the ordinance after the violations were issued.
But, wait, because I'm just confused, because the amendment to the ordinance, right, and one of the things, in one way, we had already decided at the last council meeting to implement one of the sections that's proposed, which was there was a vote at the table to, instead of applying the 30-day standard that's in our current ordinance, to apply.
Extend that grace period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but not but to apply the, 105 days, sort of that's up for discussion. And, I have, it is the council's prerogative about, what they would, if they would like to consider further action as to what we have done to date. The thing I guess I'm struggling with is, if the concern is that there are problems in the ordinance, separate from whatever problems or concerns people may have about the policy, don't we want to resolve those issues rather than leave what sounds like it's considered to be an infirm ordinance standing?
I agree with you. It needs to be resolved. My concern is, and respectfully, Joe, I agree with you as far as we defer to our professionals. The issue that I have is the ordinance as it is currently enacted and on the books requires that the professionals report to the council for the council to issue a resolution that permits issuance of a violation notice. I don't think it could be any clearer. So unless there's some.
I don't think it says that,
We
all
can
due
pull-
respect, but it doesn't.
We could pull up the ordinance right now. It says exactly that.
That the sidewalk inspector, it doesn't say anything about the
I'll
sidewalk.
pull it up right now.
Yeah, it says that the council is required
To pass
To
the
pass a
resolution, I
resolution.
understand that, it does not,
in order to issue violations.
I understand that.
But
And we have
practically
delegated that to
Yeah.
our expert, the sidewalk inspector, that's what I'm saying. It
Right.
doesn't say that the sidewalk inspector then has to bring it back for
It
us
does.
to do anything.
So, may I just posit it? Sounds like there is disagreement about the reading of the current ordinance and the impact on currently issued, violations. And I'm not sure necessarily
I don't know
how
that there's a question about the ordinance, there's a question about whether or not we should vacate these violations, and I,
We're kind of saying two different things, because I think, one is the technicality about the resolution, which is a technicality. And the other is questioning whether or not the walk inspectors, the sidewalk inspector determining whether there is a violation in
An
the
unsafe
sidewalk
condition.
has nothing to do with the resolution in the past, in the former ordinance. They're two very separate issues.
Oh, yes.
You have, but they're being conflated in this resolution. Because you're basically talking about, this resolution is about questioning the procedure of the sidewalk inspector. But the violation, but rather the resolution is about the authority to give a violation. And they're two very separate things. So, and you've conflated them both. So that's where I have a problem with the resolution.
Respectfully, I'll disagree with you. I think that the ordinance and the policy go hand in hand. And so this resolution is an omnibus proposal.
The ordinance doesn't have the procedures.
Oh,
I'm
no
not
question.
talking policy, I'm talking procedures.
Oh, no question. And so one part of this proposed resolution
Right.
that's before us right now speaks to the violation notices that were issued.
Right.
A separate part speaks to directing the promulgation of a new written policy that takes into account 4 specific concerns. So they may be in the same resolution. Respectfully, I don't think I'm conflating the two. I think that these are both essential considerations.
I don't disagree with that, but in my opinion, the problem with the former ordinance was the fact that there was a need for a resolution to be crafted by or agreed upon or voted on by the council.
Oh, I agree with that completely.
And that with the new ordinance, we no longer require that. But that resolution only is authorizing the expert to go and make the, inspect the violations or the possible violations. It doesn't address the procedures
If I could
in
indulge everyone.
in the former,
You have to indulge quickly.
Sure.
resolution. That's all that's what I'm saying.
And I want to be very clear.
Because the procedures are super, super important to have on the books, right? And this resolution, we no longer want on the books.
I hear you.
So that's why I think it's important to separate the two.
I hear you. So just to be clear, section 188-28 of the Borough of Glen Rock ordinance, resolution notice, whenever it appears to the council on advice of the borough engineer, superintendent of public works, or building inspector, or on its own motion that it is necessary or advisable in the public interest to construct, repair, alter, or relay a curb or sidewalk, the council shall adopt a resolution so finding, and shall by such resolution direct that a notice be served upon the owner or occupant of the abutting lands, specifying the work required to be done, and requiring the abutting owner or occupant to accomplish same. And it goes on. So the point is that in order for that notice to even be issued, it has to come before the council first. That never happened.
For 50 years.
Yes, but just because it's been done for 50 years respectfully doesn't make it right.
That's, all right, we're gonna keep going around on this. We're gonna take a vote whether this resolution goes on. Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution.
So the motion would be to add the resolution to the,
Consent
to
agenda?
the 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Consent agenda.
So I will make the motion to add this to the consent agenda for 8 o'clock.
I second.
Jackie, call the roll.
Councilmember Martin,
Not as written, no.
Councilmember Gilbert,
No.
Councilmember Orlick,
No.
Councilmember Call,
I second it. Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky,
No.
Councilmember Rosenstein.
Yes.
Okay, so the resolution will not be on the agenda for tonight. All right.
A lot of BS.
If I could just make it clear that.
This is a lot of bullshit.
I agree, but I also just want to say that this whole issue of these policy guidelines that are now put into writing, I believe Bob Bono, our DPW director, has consistently said that if anyone feels that their violation notice was in error, that the DPW will come and look and talk to them. So we really are not trying to stop that from happening in any way. The question here was just whether everything needs to be rescinded and reissued, but
I just
And
wanna.
these are the same, the guidelines that we use are virtually identical to the ones in Ridgewood. I haven't looked at everybody's, but they're virtually the same as the ones.
I did wanna just make a quick comment.
Go ahead, Bob.
So out of the 6 people, so out of the 6 residents,
Excuse me.
there were 6 residents that contacted the Department of Public Works for myself and the sidewalk inspector to meet and review their sidewalks. Out of those 6, 4 remained the same, 1 increased, and 1 decreased just because they were old markings and there didn't seem to be a violation. And
The feedback I've gotten from a lot of residents is that they were waiting for the written policy to come out so that they could decide whether it was appropriate to call it back.
Okay, now it's out, so
Yeah.
everyone is
And it's
encouraged that they
available
think
on the-
that there are errors.
It's available in the weekly newsletter. I don't know if it's on the borough website yet.
it's not. It is.
Okay.
On the borough website.
Thank you.
Yep. Right, we have 8 minutes, 7:55, we're out of here, we're going in. If anybody doesn't get to speak, their public comment takes place at the next meeting as well, and you're free to join that meeting. So I
Why
will.
don't we start this way, so we always
Well,
talk?
if Gabe had follow-up questions.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
You can speak from your, you can speak from your question, right?
We're at
Fine.
public comment now.
So Chief, you're familiar with the book manual?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated just before, I didn't know, you had done a traffic study?
We have the data on the volume of cars, yes, and the speeds.
You have the data of the traffic flow, the car?
Approximately 1,800 vehicles per
How
day.
did you get that?
We have electronic monitors on the street.
When did you install it? And when were they installed?
It can be wrong.
You know what? If you would like to come in and meet with our traffic safety supervisor,
No, excuse me. It's my turn to ask you questions.
okay, I believe it was put up in May.
Okay. So in May, you knew it was 1,800? 1,800 and change?
Well, no, between May and now, we have the data, we downloaded it, and it's
Okay.
roughly 1,800 cars
You
a
said
day.
you're familiar with the manual, right? What does the
Mhm.
manual say about under 2,000?
Again,
What does the manual say about under 2,000?
these are questions for the traffic safety supervisor. We made a recommendation, and our recommendation stands. If you have further questions, I will happily set up a meeting with you with Sergeant McGovern, who is our traffic safety specialist, and he can go over this with you the way he went over it with the borough engineer.
Maybe the council wants to hear from you. Maybe the council wants to hear what happened. Maybe the council wants to hear what the data shows. It's not me personally, I have nothing against you. This is about the community, it's about what you call safety.
Again, and these were taking into account the overall conditions on the street and the usage of the street. This was the recommendation that we made as part of the program and that the borough engineer coordinated. The only thing that is required when these are reviewed is the engineer's expertise. That is it. If the borough engineer came back to Sergeant McGovern and said, you know what, that's a nice idea, but I would like you to look at this, he would have done it. This was our recommendation, and this all started with the point of the crosswalk and putting the crosswalk flashers in there, because one of the things that you find with crosswalk flashers is that cars that are in the queue behind the vehicle that stopped for the pedestrian have a propensity to pass the car that stopped for the pedestrian.
You remember
And-
what my question was?
Huh?
You remember what my question was? Anyway, let me ask you another question. You reviewed-
Gabe, you had your 3 minutes.
You reviewed the plans?
Gabe, you've had your 3 minutes, we're going to somebody
You
else.
reviewed the plans?
Gabe,
Gabe, we have to let other people have a chance.
Yeah, no, I think.
Thank you, Gabe.
Gabe me as well.
Good job, Gabe.
We're all here.
Good job, Gabe.
you're wasting your 5 minutes.
Gabe me
Okay.
as well. You mind if I keep?
I'm here for the sidewalk situation. 3 years ago, I emailed Mr. Roy Clipper, 142 Winslow Terrace. I replaced about $20,000 worth of sidewalks. I emailed Mr. Bruno, said I have a tree on borough property that's eating into my sidewalks. He, said the borough ordinance, whatever it is, we can't remove it. I went, paid almost $1,000 to have somebody come out and say, yes, it's eating the roots. I have pictures, I've emailed the borough administrator and got no response. Now, 3 years later, my sidewalks are coming up. I'm not gonna be paying $20,000 to replace the sidewalks that I just replaced 3 months ago, or 3 years ago. So I'd love the council to come up with a plan on what happens in a situation like this, because I'm hearing from many, many people who have replaced sidewalks within the last 5 years that are now coming up. I went and did the right thing. I replanted 60 trees on my property. I have nothing against trees. I love trees. This specific tree is eating up. I have emails here if anybody would like to see with pictures. I'd love to know what the council would suggest that I do, since my hands are tied. Every time there's a bad storm, I bring my kids to the basement. You can clearly see the tree is unstable. We've taken roots down when we had to put a new gas line, new water line, and now my hands are tied with this tree. So I'd love to know, I don't know if this is the right time or not. I can forward the emails to everybody, but I'd love to know what you guys suggest that I do as a resident.
So the ordinance that we're passing tonight, or that we're voting on tonight, addresses just kind of these standards, but when it comes to trees, this is a major issue throughout town, and the trees with the sidewalks. We are absolutely, as a council, determined to come up with a fair policy when it comes to the borough trees, because for people who wanna save the tree, if the tree has to come down, we understand that, the major expense about all of this. We're very, very aware of it as fellow residents who are dealing with it ourselves. So I just wanna say that we hear you, and we've heard everyone when it comes to the tree. That is not part of anything that's being passed tonight. It's not part of the ordinance that's being passed, but we are working on it, and that is something that we will continue to work on until we figure it out.
We asked you to form a committee, you wouldn't do it.
We have a.
What you said, a fair policy in regards to trees,
we
that's
have-
exactly what
we
you guys
have-
said in May, a fair policy for sidewalks, and we're not doing it.
We have a
You just asked that you
Excuse me.
guys, the same old two
We
people
have-
vote to help us.
We have a sidewalk committee, and we have been meeting, yes.
And we asked to have residents be on it, and you guys voted no to form that
So
committee,
part
which
of,
we asked a month ago.
understand.
It's frustrating when people are here and want to be, let their voices be heard.
We understand very well the concerns, and most, well,
I know, because you say that, but then you vote down no.
I'm gonna go on.
Let's go.
Jim,
all right, next.
Jim. Did you wanna say something?
No.
No?
I just wanna say that half the problems with the sidewalk is the trees. All the ones in my neighborhood, I could walk around my block, 90% of the violations are because of trees.
Right, and you allow people to report others anonymously, but I can't speak unless I say my name and my address. 60 slabs along Radburn in front of residents, none across the school. You're not responsible, or this ordinance doesn't cover the school or borough properties. That's not right.
That's not strictly true, but
We were told.
that is not true. In fact, the schools were all told about their slabs.
But none of them are marked.
I don't think anybody's gone out there. They've been notified.
Right, but
To look at
60,
their slabs.
60 on the other side of the
Yeah,
street.
but they have been officially notified. I can tell you that for sure.
Double yellow line. Keep going.
Yes, no,
Okay, thanks. Gay means well, right? I think half the people here are often during this. I have kids, I want that street to be safe. They go down to Faber Field every day, they go to the pool every day. Their main source of income is a lemonade stand, right? Guess what? Cars don't stop on a double yellow line. Cars are the opposite, they go faster. I know you don't think so. Once those double yellow lines went in, I watched how cars react. They go faster. I also watched, like you said, pull over 3 cars in a matter of 2 hours. What does that mean? I know you said, oh, it's a nice new road, people go faster. It's because they're going faster, right? So that, in addition to every time we ride our bikes to the pool, there is no purpose of putting a double yellow line if every other car is driving by the parked cars on the other side of the road. I don't understand the purpose. You took out the speed humps, that slows people down. I understand it might break some plows here or there, but you're giving up safety for construction equipment, it sounds like. I don't agree with that. I think the road has gotten extremely less safe than what we are saying. And again, I'm coming from a place where I have kids on this block. And I just found it crazy that let's just throw a double yellow line. In addition, I did some research that a double yellow line, the lowest it can go is 25. The highest it can go is 65. So from a psychological standpoint, it is assumed to be 25 or above. So that is not what you think of when you're on a non-double yellow line street. You think of a residential. In addition, it also says it is not for a street that requires a lot of parking and pedestrian traffic, which is exactly what Doremus is. And last point is, all the things that you had mentioned, again, I'm not attacking, I'm just explaining the things and the observations I have. All those places that you have mentioned on Doremus, those are not new. Those have all been there. And the street hasn't changed. And 1,800 cars is a lot, but it does not mandate a double yellow line, and it does not help safety.
Thank you.
All right, if you care so much about safety, there's no speed limit sign till you get to the Arboretum. You want to talk about safety? There's no.
Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to close the work session?
Richmond didn't strike the residential section for you. There's been no policing. Not here, yellow line, I think 40 miles.
Not at the beginning of the build the trees, you get it, good job.
I shut down my psychology
In the middle, right?
All right, we're going to get started. Dean, could you close the door? Thank you. Welcome to the July 23rd public meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Glen Rock. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was noticed in the Bergen Record, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, posted on the borough website, and has remained continuously posted as per the required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Here.
Councilmember Gilbreth?
Here.
Councilmember Orlick?
Here.
Councilmember Call?
Here.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Here.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Here.
So as you'll note, the mayor is not here this evening, and Councilmember Rosansky is on the phone, both for health-related issues. So I will be handling the meeting this evening. Shall we do the flag salute? Captain Trover, would you like to lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first thing this evening, we want to have a moment of silence for Diane Hurlett. I think many of you knew her in our community. She was an active member of the ambulance corps for many, many years. She was active in her employment at the community church, and she did so much for our community. I think she touched the lives of the vast majority of folks that are here in Glen Rock, and we are very saddened by her passing, and her loss will be felt for many years throughout our community. So if we can take just a moment for Diane Hurlett. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, first up this evening, we will do our department reports, and I will start with Councilmember Amy Martin.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Gilbreth. I just wanted to briefly cover, we are Shade Tree, speaking of Shade Tree, as in the work session, are working very hard. The Shade Tree Committee did hire a person to help out with the CFMP, which is basically surveying our tree canopy in town, and it's a big job, and it's part of how we get grants and how the Shade Tree can be more effective with helping guide the borough. So that's a major event with our Shade Tree Committee, and thank you for everyone on it who's moving that forward. And for the library, just wanted to let everyone know that the library has some incredible, as they always do, some summer lineups. They've got great summer reading and a lot of summer programming for children. If you haven't checked it out, there's a lot left from even this week and well into August before the school year starts. So that's about it. Quiet, July.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Next up, Councilmember Jill Orlick.
Thank you, Council President. First, I'd like to extend a big thank you to the Glen Rock Police Department, which responded to 1,330 calls in the month of June. I appreciate everything they do, all their hard work to keep us all safe, keep our community as safe as possible. I'd also like to mention that retired Sergeant Harold Bogert passed away in late June. We are very grateful for his service, everything he did for our community, and very sorry for his loss and want to extend the community's condolences to his family. On Tuesday, August 12th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Wild Memorial Park, the Police Department will be hosting Glen Rock Night Out, which is a fun-filled event where residents can meet with our first responders, the police officers, firefighters, and EMTs. Kids can check out all of our emergency vehicles and get some free giveaways, and this year there will be a helicopter landing. Community organizations are also welcome to set up a table if they would like to be part of this event, and I encourage everyone to attend. The Glen Rock Environmental Commission would like to hear residents' priorities as far as environmental and sustainability concerns. So there will be a survey in this week's email blast and on the website, and we encourage everyone to please complete the survey and let us know of your environmental priorities, what's important to you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Orlick. Councilmember Cole?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Glen Rock Volunteer Ambulance Corps for responding to 50 calls in June, contributing approximately 156 volunteer hours on calls that month. As always, we're grateful to the volunteers who give not just their time, but their compassion and skill. We were saddened to learn of the passing of Diane Hurlett on July 16th. Diane was a 45-year life member of the Volunteer Ambulance Corps, in addition to the many other contributions she made to our community. She will be deeply missed by all those who knew and loved her. From the Business Commission survey that was sent out this spring to all local businesses and commercial property owners, we had the opportunity to review the results at our last meeting, and the responses provided us with a lot of priorities to work on to help existing Glen Rock businesses thrive and to make Glen Rock a more welcoming environment for new businesses seeking to open up in our town. Among these priorities is reviewing and making suggestions to the council for revisions to our parking ordinance and launching a unified social media marketing campaign for all Glen Rock businesses. So we're really looking forward to working on that together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rosansky?
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to the Glen Rock Volunteer Fire Department for their unwavering dedication and service to our community. In the month of June, our firefighters responded to 38 alarms and participated in 3 drills, all while balancing their own family, work, and personal commitments. So we are so grateful for their sacrifices. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Rosenstein?
Thank you, Council President. Camp is in full swing, and campers went on their 3rd trip today, this time to a New York Boulders baseball game. There are only 2 weeks left of camp, if you can imagine. The summer swim team is also reaching the end of their season. They have their final dual meet this evening, and some swimmers qualified for the league and county championship meets. The borough's 2nd and final movie night at the pool is scheduled for Wednesday, August the 6th. The showing will be Moana 2. I hope to see you all there.
Okay, thank you. For my report, I want to note that September 4th from 6 to 8 is our senior resident deck party. It will take place at the Glen Rock Pool from 6 to 8. Dinner will be served. There will be sign-ups on the borough website, so keep your eyes peeled for that. With respect to the Senior Advisory Committee, there is no meeting in August. However, SAC is sponsoring a program in conjunction with the library on potential tax savings for older residents. So for anybody who's familiar with the Senior Freeze or the Anchor program and the coming changes for Stay New Jersey, the state has now created a single form that can be used by residents to then have the programs that are most appropriate for them be identified. So on Wednesday, August 13th, from 1 to 2:30 at the Glen Rock Public Library, there will be representatives from the 38th Legislative District Office and their services team to come in and help folks. So if you want to come, bring your 2023 and 2024 tax returns and the PAS-1 Blue Book. If you don't have a PAS-1 Blue Book, you can get one at that session. So we look forward to seeing folks there. On Monday, July 28th, the Arboretum grounds will be closed for tree work and habitat restoration, so you will not be able to walk your dogs or walk around in the Arboretum for that full day. So it will be marked, but we're just letting folks know. And then, as you're all aware, Lenore's last day is August 27th, and we are not counting those days. But as we work very thoughtfully through the process of finding our replacement for our borough administrator, we are planning to appoint an interim borough administrator / CFO. We've been working with a search firm and are in the process of hiring such a person. So we just wanted to keep you posted on that. And that is the end of my report. So can I get a motion to accept the department reports?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreth?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the consent agenda.
All items listed are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Borough Council and will be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member so requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. The one motion signifies adoption of all resolutions, receive and file letters, correspondence, reports, and approval of application of minutes. Resolution 1 is for payment of bills. Resolution 2 is for approval of minutes. Resolution 3 is approving CDBG representative. Resolution 4 is for preparation of digital tax map. Resolution 5 is rejecting library elevator bid. Resolution 6 is retirement agreement for the administrator. Resolution 7 is authorizing agreement with West Bergen. Resolution 8 is to award the bid for East Gramercy. Resolution 9 is for award of oil water separator at the DPW garage. Resolution 10 is authorizing competitive contracting, and Resolution 11 is authorizing the bid threshold updates.
Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreth?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is the final reading of Ordinance 1948 and ordinance amending Chapter 188 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Glen Rock entitled Streets and Sidewalks. Jen, did you want to add something?
I did. Thank you, Council President.
It was noted by Councilwoman Call that one of the copies of the ordinance that had been previously posted on the website had included some ADA language that was there from an earlier draft and did not reflect the version that was introduced. The corrected version of the ordinance was published and is reflected on the website. And the ordinance that's on for second reading tonight is the ordinance that we introduced in June.
Thank you. I need a motion to open to public hearing this ordinance. All in favor? I need a motion, I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So this is public hearing part when we have a second reading. Members of the public can speak for 3 minutes specifically about this ordinance and this ordinance only. Again, it is limited to 3 minutes.
Boss Cohen, 19 National Place, Glen Rock. In a rare but partisan situation, both the Democrats and Republicans running to the council agree that the sidewalk ordinance is out of place. The town is against the ordinance, but the council is moving forward without listening to the people. Here are the main issues that the council failed to address. Residents reporting residents. We have people from Fairlawn reporting houses in Glen Rock houses. Why are we enforcing the law only after somebody reports someone? Why don't you apply it on taxes? Maybe we should just pay our taxes if somebody reports you. Trees cutting. The council failed to address the town's responsibility. The slabs problems come from the trees that are responsibility of the town. Why isn't the council paying for the repairs and finding solutions for the trees? I also want to correct what Councilman Gilbert said in the work sessions. The guidelines that were published on Friday are different than what was used in the past. They're actually much better for the community. I actually saved $100 because of the new guidelines. So thank you for the DPW for updating the guidelines. Lastly, I have to say publicly that our issue is not with the DPW. They are enforcing the policies that the council is implementing. The issue is with the council not supporting the community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mr. Kraus from 66
Belvedere Road. I was told that our block was reported from the administrator who's gonna be retiring, who's very nice. Now, if that's the case.
Turn on your microphone. Turn it on.
I got violations on my sidewalk. Now, I do not mind paying it. But I am not gonna pay it if you don't do it borough-wide. Like I pay my taxes. I'm paying taxes here over 50 years now, since I took it over from my parents. And they built the house in 1950. And this is a bunch of baloney. Do it borough-wide and no one will complain. We did it years ago. We had it borough-wide. And I think that's only fair. What about the seniors who can't afford it? You don't give a break on your taxes. I pay them all the time. That's all I'm saying, is you do it borough-wide and check them. When I walk my dog, I see plenty of slabs up. You know, when Sandy came, I had a tree came right on down to my house. Carlos took it down. Then I had another tree that was there, and then this is when John was the mayor. I said, I want that tree down, please. And he said, well, nothing's wrong with it. I said, well, it wasn't funny when I was in the house watching television and a huge tree falls on my house. I would like the other one taken down. He took it down. So all I'm saying is do it borough-wide, and maybe people will stop complaining. When they drive by, they see a sidewalk bad, start marking them. Do your job. Thank you.
Joe Newbert, 18 Nottingham Road. I start with a question. In the absence of citizen complaints leading to violation, what is the systematic plan for addressing sidewalk violations? As the recent updates stated, the main concern is safety, and we all agree with that. On my own, I spent $3,000 last year to upgrade my sidewalks. No inspector. My sidewalk was then inspected by an inspector who had made no mention of the other slabs or any other parts of my sidewalk. Now I get a ordinance or a violation for $3,500, well, approximately $3,500 on the other parts of my sidewalk. If safety is the number one issue, why did he not address that when he came out to see my sidewalks? I want to talk about discrimination for a second. It's hard to talk about discrimination, but we were told by our inspector that it was a person on the other part of town that targeted our neighborhood for the sidewalk violations. How do I know this person did it for the right reasons and without prejudice? I don't, because I don't know who filed a complaint against us. It is incumbent upon the governing body of Glen Rock to adopt a practice via an ordinance that clearly outline guidelines for a systematic inspection of sidewalks, not an arbitrary one that relies on anonymous citizen complaints. Thank you.
Elizabeth Carr, 231 Hamilton Avenue. I'm disappointed that over the past numerous council meetings, no meaningful steps have been taken to alleviate residents' concerns about the costs involved in replacing sidewalk slabs. For many homeowners, these repairs represent a significant and often unexpected financial burden. The lack of support or alternative solutions have left residents feeling unheard or unsupported. What's most concerning is the approach being taken. Simply revamping the verbiage of an ordinance doesn't necessarily help residents or address the real issues they face. Small business owners, families, and longtime residents need more than updated language. We need thoughtful, actionable solutions that reflect the realities on the ground and generally respond to community concerns. As I stated at previous meetings, this is pitting neighbors against neighbors, creating a fear of the unknown if I'm going to get hit next. As the gentleman before me said, and I said at another meeting, it's a complete townwide assessment should be done. I walk my dogs. There's not one house, and I don't walk in the same route all the time. I do tons of different streets. I walk to downtown. I make it a point to walk downtown. The downtown is horrendous. There should be a townwide to make it fair. But I'm going to take it one step further. I said meaningful resolutions. I said at the one of the previous meetings about contracting someone like you did with the water line, and then having small payments, having the repairs done by this contractor and having them paid off in installments or with a lien. That's actionable. That's motions to help the residents. What you're doing right now is just changing the verbiage. Specifically with regards to your proposed changes, it takes the responsibilities of the roads and the curbs basically from the engineer, and this is my understanding, from the engineer and mayor and council, and giving it to the DPW director only, as well as denying responsibility and no option to appeal. Since Councilmember Galbraith brought up other towns and compared, I'll just let you know that in my extensive research, I did towns from all over the state. And ironically enough, I found that Hawthorne, Paramus, and Wayne pay for their curb, or rather sidewalk repairs when there's town trees that do the damage. And then my last question is, you received a grant in 2023 for the walkability study. And the report says the borough and engineer should walk together to make those repairs. What was the end result with that walkability study, feasibility study? Where are the results? Have they ever been presented in public? Did the council work with the residents? Did the council ever tell any of those residents about their sidewalks that were not up to code? Or, so I'm just curious about that.
Council President, the speaker's time has expired.
Okay, that's it. I was done, but thank you.
Good evening. I'm Reuben Cornier. I live at 65 Belvedere Road. I've been here for 46 years. And I remember in the past, Bagnetto and Sons used to come, stamp the sidewalk and give us a good price. Why don't we have these large numbers? If we're eventually going to have to do these repairs, have you use your power to get us the best prices with a contractor. Thank you.
John Hendel, 59 Griswold Place. I first want to thank all the residents who have been coming out and standing up for this issue. I did hear at one of the meetings that the council told one of the council members to get the voice of the people. So that's exactly what I did. I took money out of my own pocket, created a survey, and I found that 64% of the residents who responded thought that the metric that we're using is wrong and should be higher. It should be at least an inch high. But more importantly, I found 80% felt that if we're going to let people report and violate concerns, that there should be a standardized form that they need to complete that includes the information of themselves that they're submitting, because as someone said before, when we get up here, we have to vocalize our names, so they should have to do the same. The form should also include a specific area that's in question, the slab that's in question, so that the whole house is not looked at. We have other towns that have implemented this. I found at least 2 now, continuing my research. 80% of those surveyed felt that it should include either a photograph or a specific area where the slab is in question. It would require a greater degree of accountability for the person making the request. It would allow the homeowner to know exactly what slab is in question, and it would save time for the DPW so they don't have to come out and inspect every single one. They can just focus on the slab that's in question that's a violation, and it's usually a pretty obvious one that everyone thinks. I commend Liz for doing your research as well. I actually found more towns that say that if it's a damaged tree, if the tree is causing the damage to the slab, that the town will actually pay for that to be replaced. There's a whole host of other things I'd love to talk about. I again wanted to thank the public for making their voices heard. I wish that they would have more time to speak in the working session, because that's what the working session is for all of us to come together. Last thing, mention the municipality, those things. Sorry, I had one other thing. I can't remember what in the survey itself, also 90% of the people said they'd like to understand how the DPW is measuring the sidewalk slab violations and to make it a metric or a measurement tool that they can replicate and do on their own so they can validate whatever the DPW is putting forward. Oh, here's the last thing. I would also like to know from the council, how do I opt out of having any trees put in front of my house in the future? Because I don't want to go through this with my house where new trees are planted by the borough and then my sidewalk is suddenly uplifted and I have to pay for it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Green. I'm at 28 Monmouth Road. I want to start out by saying that as a disability advocate, I believe in accessibility. I know accessibility is important, and I know that that's mostly at the heart of this issue. I understand the ADA requirements, yet I feel like there's, so I received a notice with several violations for slabs that were replaced when we moved in about 8 years ago. So as a disability advocate, I want to do what I can to make my property accessible. But I found that basically every single one of the slabs is a result of the street trees, and they were the same ones that had been replaced when we moved in. So like others have mentioned, I feel like my hands are tied. It's not my tree. I love the trees. I think I understand the importance to our environment, but I feel like we're kind of stuck. I understand my comment now is supposed to be on this specific resolution about extending the timeline, but I just encourage you all to consider tabling voting on the resolution and instead thinking about this issue more holistically. Like there's just clearly a lot about discussion about resolving the sidewalk issue at large rather than isolating it just to this one resolution tonight. Thanks so much.
How you doing? James Maxwell. I'm at 558 Remus Avenue, and I'm here to talk about my new sidewalk repair company. So, I'm joking. Yeah. But more seriously, my wife and I moved here about 3 years ago. We have 2 young kids, and obviously it's very expensive. You know, it saddens me to see the council not being what seems to be responsive to the wishes of the community, right? And people being very vocal, very invested in the community, and it's great to see. Looking at the proposed amended ordinance, I'd just like to respectfully note that the update that was posted online today kind of glosses over the fact that, yes, there's an extension to the timeline that's included in the amended ordinance, but the amended ordinance also removes the council's involvement from the decision-making, right? So, what does it say? That the Director of Public Works or their designee, right, can now make the determination unilaterally if there's been a violation, and unilaterally if to issue a notice. There's no requirement for there to be any kind of public discourse about it, or for the decision to be subjected to public scrutiny. Now, for the benefit of doubt, if this is sort of like an administrative streamlining, I can appreciate that, but I hope the council can also appreciate that it's a little bit concerning, disruptive to the community to feel like people are anonymously reporting us to some, anonymous DPW designee stalking around the community, checking everyone's sidewalks. It instills a little bit of fear, feels very invasive, a little slimy maybe. And I hope you can appreciate being on the other side of this. And as far as if we're going to continue with a reporting-based approach and not a community-wide approach, as many people have suggested, I do think it opens the council up to being complicit in discrimination with anonymous reporting. We have no idea why people are not required to disclose who they are when they're reporting. We don't know if they're reporting other residents for maybe their membership in a protected class, for example. And the council would be complicit in this if they don't investigate and get to the reasons why someone's being reported. I also, in addition to thinking that this should be public, right, out in the open, when you report, I also think that if you report somebody else, your property should be subject to inspection as well. That's just my personal view. And so what to do instead? Chapter 2, Section 201 of the ADA says that it applies, quote, to newly designed and newly constructed buildings and facilities and altered portions of existing buildings and facilities. So to me, it seems reasonable that if you're getting a permit on your property to either do some sort of alterations or to do new construction, then at that time would be a great time to go and say, okay, let's also look at your sidewalks, see if something can be replaced. It reduces the likelihood of a sort of surprise financial burden on a homeowner that could be built into renovations that they're already planning. So that's sort of my thoughts. Thanks very much, I appreciate it.
Okay, is that it? Can I get a motion to close public hearing?
I'll make that motion. Just for the ordinance?
Yes. That's it. That's it. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jackie, can you read the resolution, the ordinance, please? Resolution?
To introduce it.
I'm sorry?
Oh,
I need a motion to introduce
on second reading.
on second reading. Thank you.
I'll make that motion. Second?
Anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 188 of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Glen Rock entitled Street and Sidewalks be passed upon second and final reading, and that the Borough Clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law by publishing the same by title in the Bergen Record. Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreath?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
No.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
I will preface this with, I think the ordinance is well drafted. The policy as drafted does not take into account crucial considerations as was discussed during the work session. It is for that reason that I am uncomfortable with the adoption of this ordinance at this juncture and must vote no.
This ordinance passes second reading. Okay. All right, next order of business, ordinance 1949 is here for a first reading. The ordinance of the Borough and Glen Rock in the County of Bergen authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $100,000 for the preparation of MS4 infrastructure map, stormwater management. Can I get a motion to introduce ordinance 1949 for first reading?
I'll make that motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Glen Rock, an ordinance of the Borough of Glen Rock in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $100,000 for the preparation of the MS4 infrastructure map, stormwater management, heretofore introduced and does now pass on first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on August 27, 2025, at 8:00 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter can be reached at the municipal building in the Borough of Glen Rock, and that at such time and place all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and that the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Bergen Record according to law with the notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and a time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbreath?
Yes.
Councilmember Orlick?
Yes.
Councilmember Call?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosansky?
Yes.
Councilmember Rosenstein?
Yes.
Ordinance 1949 passes first reading. Okay. All right, can I get a motion to open the meeting to public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So this, you can have public comment on any topic. You can come to the podium. You have 3 minutes. It is public comment, not public discussion.
Linda Brennan, 505 Doremus. So I just want some clarification, although I know you won't give it to me. So you mentioned that, Lenore, and again, congratulations, your last day is August 27th. That's 5 weeks away. You mentioned there'll be an interim person. Has that person been named?
No.
It'll happen on August 27th?
Yes.
Okay. So why 5 weeks still will there not be a naming of an interim person? How, do you not know you won't hire someone before August 27th, after this has been open?
That's the process right now.
And to clarify, originally there was a search team, and then I think it was replaced, correct me if I'm wrong, by a firm hired, And this is not confidential information, because this firm, we're paying out of taxpayers' dollars. So is there a separate search committee versus the JLM?
The search committee works with the search firm.
And who is on the search committee?
Councilmember Martin, Councilmember Orlick, and myself.
Sorry? Why can't you answer? It's not your business. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. Okay. Okay, and I'll wait till August, but we all know the criticality of this, certain dates involved here and certain issues. And don't think that it's not going to be potentially talked about further in the future if certain things play out the way they may. And you know exactly what I'm speaking about. But we'll see. And I just find it odd to be hiring or saying that you're going to appoint an interim person when there's still 5 weeks until Lenore's last day. And so what is the issue about finding someone since this has been open since like January? I would imagine the job or jobs is attractive to come to Glen Rock. Is there an issue? Why is it taking so long?
The search will take how long the search takes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Joanne Perry, 77 Thurston Terrace. Can I just clarify something? When we speak in here, it's not a conversation, is that correct? It's
Generally speaking,
to
yes,
give you input.
even though I just answered you.
I'm just
I
trying
see,
to clarify
I see the
that.
irony in the response.
Okay.
My door's a little shut. Do you want to say a few words? All right, tell them where you're from. Tell them your name.
I'm Julia.
Okay, where do you live?
Hi, Julia.
I live in Gramercy Place, New Jersey.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to say that when we cut down the trees, I don't want them to be cut down because if you have a sidewalk that's lifting, I get it, you want to cut down. But when we cut down the trees, it kind of makes me nervous that we're not going to have a good environment and we're not going to have a lot of oxygen. So I thought we could maybe plant some trees and make our environment better place and not pollute the world.
Julia, I don't know if you were in our work session. I don't think so, but maybe,
No.
but I just want you to know that we voted to double the amount of trees we're going to plant this year.
Okay.
So,
She was just concerned because our neighbor today, you guys took down a tree on Radburn. And I know the neighbor just called and he didn't want the tree there because it was close to his house. And I've heard rumors of that. People calling, I don't want the tree, I don't like the tree, and now trees are coming down because Dave, who's been the head guy for 2 years now, and he has a tree cutting business, so I just think that's like a conflict of interest. Not that he's making money on this, I don't mean it like that. But there's a different mindset sometimes when you're in the tree cutting business. I have a good tree cutting guy, he'll tell me my trees are healthy or not. You know, he's up front, but some of these guys, they just want to cut. So that's what she saw, and she got upset, and she's seen other trees come down. I didn't put her up to this, to talk tonight. She said she wanted to, she's been telling me she wants to come talk. She wants to put up signs around town to save the trees. So, that's what it was about. And for Mr. Hendel, I'll take his tree. If he doesn't want that tree, you can plant another tree in front of my house. I don't really care, because I'll tell you one thing, you move to a town without trees, you tell me how the property values are. You tell me if they're gonna be as high as our property values. I guarantee they're not, so, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Gabriel Bolaro, 512 Doremus Avenue. Good to see you again. I'm here, I might as well talk a second time. I spoke at the work session concerning the issue of the double yellow line that was just recently painted on Doremus Avenue. And I've been in town 45 years now, and I've seen our road repaved, milled and repaved 3 times now. They do it every 10, 15 years. So I'm familiar with it. But this particular time, at the end of June, I think June 30th, I was surprised and shocked and disappointed to see that the road was painted with double yellow lines. Now, I'm familiar with double yellow lines. I practice law, I do some motor vehicle violation cases. The double yellow lines basically are supposed to prevent people from passing another vehicle. I've been out on Doremus Avenue 45 years. I could tell you, I could count in my hand the number of times people passed other vehicles. So I don't think that line is necessary. Statistically, traffic problems are handled by a manual on uniform traffic control devices. The double yellow line is a traffic device, so it's controlled by this manual. This manual tells us that if you have over 6,000 cars traveling on the road, you should put a double yellow line. If you have 4,000 to 6,000, you may. If you have 2,000 to 4,000, you don't have to. I understand from the testimony of Chief Ackerman at the work session that we had 1,800 travelers per day on Doremus Avenue. That's nowhere near required to install a double yellow line. Nowhere near it. Furthermore, and if I don't mean to be quick, but I just want to point this out, the street is a north-south street, Doremus Avenue. It goes to Ridgewood. And it's 30 feet wide. The line is placed right in the center at 15 feet. However, on the western side of Doremus Avenue, there is parking permitted along the whole street from Rock Road all the way to Ridgewood. You could park on that side. You cannot park on the east side. What happens here, this is a traffic dilemma, dangerous situation if we allow those double lines to stay there, because a car that is parked there takes about 8 feet of space. The center is 15 feet. That means there's 7 feet left for a car traveling north or south on Doremus Avenue on the side that it's parked. That's not enough. The car has to travel on the other side of the road, which would be what was trying to avoid, because then if you have a collision, you're going to have a head-on collision. 2 cars, one going north, one going south. Head-on collision will kill people. And I'm here to protect that. I'm here to protect and save the area, because it's a residential area. It is not a commercial area. Those double yellow lines make it look like a commercial area.
Thank you, Gabe. Your time is up.
It's going to devalue the properties on Doremus Avenue also.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank
Your time is up.
Oh, by the way, I want to thank you for getting that grant to install to do the repair work
Gabe.
on the line. Thank you very much. I give credit where credit is due and criticize where I have to criticize.
Hi. Douglas Montone, 516 Doremus Ave. Gabe is my neighbor, and I'm very happy to have him as a neighbor. You can see how passionate he is and how much he cares, and you have to respect that. We spoke also in the session. We had a lot of folks in that session on Doremus Ave. I think there were over 20 residences that came in. We were only told yesterday that we were on the agenda when we submitted on Friday. So I did feel like we were behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to get people to show the support. And unfortunately, we all have kids on that block, so they went to do their kid stuff after the work session. So it would be nice to just get a notification a little bit ahead of a meeting so that we can properly prepare. Just one point of emphasis. As I mentioned, safety is my biggest concern. These are my kids that are on the block. And I hope you would think too, if you were on your street and a double yellow line showed up and you're out there and you see cars going faster than they used to, you would be upset, right? Speed bumps that were there, designed to slow people down, were removed. So again, how would that make you feel if you see cars going faster, speed humps removed, and your kids are now are being told it's safer. So I don't understand the logic. I don't understand why we weren't told, and I would love to see exactly how this town engineer or town, I forgot the word the chief mentioned, but this position, how he came to this conclusion and actually how it makes it safer. So that's all I'm asking is if the council can consider providing us with that information and giving us better details and complying with, okay, this then makes sense. But as of right now, I do not see it making sense, and we are kindly asking to go back to removing the double EL line. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Rosenworth. I've been in town, Gabe was 45 years? For me, it's 49, and I'm on to Remus Avenue. Gabe and I have been family all these years. The only time we ever disagreed was how to make a lasagna. And that was many years ago. But on this one, I totally disagree with Gabe. There's certainly a correlation between the safety issue of the trees and the yellow line onto Remus Avenue. You can come up with all the stats you want. They're irrelevant. They're the stats. It takes one person to go over that line. And someone who is a senior citizen or someone who's lacking in eyesight, that yellow line is a godsend, a godsend. I do DWI, I do addiction medicine. It takes one incident for a drunk driver to kill someone. Just one, not 5,000 or 6,000. It takes one elderly person. That line of demarcation is safety, like the trees are. It takes one elderly person who can't see the line, the street at night. And that line of demarcation, because it's reflective, helps them understand what the road is so they don't go over on the other side of the road. It can save lives, and that's been a proven fact. So in all due respect, we are all here tonight because we all love this town. This is truly a town to come home to. I've raised my children here. I'm just turned 77 last week, but I spent the majority of this town loving this town and being involved. But that line is a godsend. It can save lives, and I hope to God it stays there. I'm not an advocate of the speed bumps, by the way, but I am a big advocate of the yellow line because it can save potential lives. Thank you.
Bosco, 19 Ashton Place. I wanted to talk about the process of cutting trees in the town. I really don't understand why the town does not let the property owners know that you are planning to cut a tree. It happened to me, sounds like it happened to other people. You come home one day and the tree is gone. The same way that you let the homeowners know that the trees are breaking the slabs, and you can do that, and then you ask them to repair that, why can't you tell the homeowners that the trees are going to get cut and at least give them a chance to appeal the process? Second part, the town pays for cutting the trees, so there's a budget for that. I don't understand why is it not automatically requested to put a new tree instead of a tree that's cut down. So every time that somebody cuts it, like if a tree is cut down by the town, you have to go and apply for a new tree and get approved and get in the queue. So I think that if the town cuts down a tree, they automatically should put you in getting a new tree and put a new tree up there. You don't have to go through a process and an application and go to the queue. Thank you.
Anyone else? Can I get a motion to close? Oh, I'm sorry. Bob, did you want to come up? Okay. Now is good.
Bob Bono, Director of Public Works, Borough of Glen Rock. I just wanted to make some clarifications on...
I'm sorry, Bob, get a little closer to the mic,
Okay,
please.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make some clarifications on the two items, sidewalks and trees. So the Borough of Glen Rock is very fortunate to have a licensed tree care operator who's licensed through the state for his abilities to maintain, cut down trees, and prune trees, which enables the borough to save money by having a licensed operator and also be able to maintain our trees. He does not, in any way, shape, or form, go out there every day saying that he's just going to go and cut trees because he's a tree, because he may or may not own a tree company. That's not how it works. All right. The way any complaint or any kind of issue that comes into the Department of Public Works via email, phone call, or a person stopping by, or through the central dispatch, is that we are notified of a hazard. Okay. Then that tree expert goes out there and identifies to see if there is a tree hazard out there. We are not out there driving around looking for trees to cut down. It does cost the borough a lot of money to cut down a tree. We're trying to take care of a tree that has an issue, and it is identified because of his license. If he is saying it is a hazard, that means that there's property and life at risk. We will not risk that, and he will not risk his license to wait or not take down a tree because it is identified as a hazard. Everybody knows all too well that trees come down that look healthy to somebody and, cause death or major property damage, right? They come down during storms. There's no control over that. So I just want to make sure that, again, trees that look healthy to the general person are not necessarily healthy to the regular person, okay? Someone that doesn't have the experience and his license and accreditation as he does. He's the person that'll come out 2 o'clock in the morning after there's a lightning strike and to make sure that that homeowner is not going to be in trouble, and he'll make that judgment call. We have cut down trees early in the morning to make sure that that resident is safe, all right? That person is also the sidewalk inspector. He has many years of experience. He was trained by the prior prior sidewalk inspector. We do have guidelines that we have followed forever. They are ADA and also PROAG, American Disabilities Act, and Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. It's similar to many, many municipalities in the area, and that's what we follow. We do have what I'll call is a jig that is a 1/4 inch, and we have one that's a 1/2 inch. He'll take that and he'll measure the sidewalks to see if there is anything that is wrong with the sidewalk. Again, following the guidelines. One thing that we did do differently with the subcommittee that I was included on is we added, based on recommendation from the borough engineer, is that you can do grinding of sidewalks, right? So we have the grinding of the tree roots, and we also now have the grinding of the sidewalks up to a 1/2 inch. At the paperwork that you could see either online or in that e-blast, and the sidewalk inspector will also be providing that to residents if he does leave a inspection notice, that you can do grinding now of the sidewalk up to a 1/2 inch, but it has to meet, the slope has to be correct, it has to be slip resistant, and what else? So that's definitely an added benefit where understanding the cost to reset might be different than having it grinded. Again, I'm not familiar. The Borough of Glen Rock has, to my knowledge, has not grinded any sidewalks. And again, this was something added after speaking to the borough engineer. As far as the tree roots, it is always offered to the resident. And in fact, some of the re-inspections that I did with the sidewalk inspector, there were some trees that were an issue that were popping up some of the sidewalks. And every time it is offered to the resident that they can move the sidewalk out into their property. Now, in Glen Rock, most of the right-of-ways are 50 foot, meaning the area between the curb and the sidewalk is a set dimension, and then whatever that is, each side of the curb is the other dimension. So like you were saying earlier, somebody was mentioning, I think it was the chief, had mentioned that Doremus is 50 foot. It's 30 feet between the curb and the sidewalk, then it's 10 foot on either side. Sometimes, if you want to do that crescent shape around the tree to keep the tree, that concrete sidewalk may go onto your property because you must maintain 48-inch wide sidewalk. It's per ADA. And again, it may cost more money because, again, each sidewalk slab needs to connect. You can't have a gap in between, okay? Again, keeping within ADA and ProWag, that's the requirement. What else? Again, the borough is not in the business to issue violations. We want to make sure your sidewalk and area that you transverse, whether it's vehicular traffic, whether it's pedestrian traffic, bicycles, we want to make sure that that area is safe, okay? We're not out there looking for any kind of violations. We have a lot of work to do on a daily basis. We want to make sure it's safe. We don't take, into consideration that, this resident or that resident. It's not about that, right? It's always about safety, no matter what we do. So, I just want to make sure that, that there's that understanding that we're not out there just cutting down trees to cut down trees. We're not out there looking at sidewalks that may have an issue at all. We must, it is our obligation as Department of Public Works employees to go and investigate a hazard. It doesn't matter where it comes from, how it comes from, if there's a name on it or if there isn't. We must go and investigate that hazard. Even though there are some times that someone calls in or notifies us somehow, and that person may have thought it was a hazard and it may not be. It doesn't matter. We still have to investigate that hazard. So, and if anybody has any questions at any times, needs their sidewalks to look at, needs their trees to be evaluated, you could absolutely contact the Department of Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Take a new speaker first. Take a new speaker.
I just want to say one quick thing. If sidewalk safety is such a concern, you need to put a systematic plan to address it. You cannot rely on citizen-to-citizen reporting of violations to keep things safe. Put together a systematic plan. Thank you.
Hello again. I haven't moved. I'm still in the same place. I've been listening most of the evening tonight.
Can you
about
get a
this
little closer to the mic,
sidewalk
please?
Situation. I've been here the whole night, most of the night, listening about the sidewalk situation. And in all due respect, what you're missing is that you say that the town, it's very expensive for the town to do this. Well, 62% of Americans can't afford to pay their mortgage on a national average. People are hurting. I have a house in Sullivan County, it's 82%. 8 out of 10 people can't afford to pay their mortgage. Everybody is hurting. I understand it's a problem of safety, but is there an equitable solution in the middle? Why is it up to the individual to hire a contractor at maximum expense? Why can't we pay the town, if possible, to do it for us at a nominal charge? There has to be an equitable solution between the two. We have an obligation to make this town safe. We don't want people tripping and hurting themselves and, God forbid, breaking a limb. We want the town to be safe. But there gotta be an equitable solution between the two. Can the town possibly help the homeowner pay or do it and we can pay the town. I don't know. There gotta be a meeting of the mind somewhere, because everybody is hurting economically, not just the town, the people are also. And to make the people pay for it is not fair, at a premium price probably. There gotta be a way of finding a middle solution. There always is.
Boaz Cohen, 19 National Place. I have to address two things. So one, thanks for Bob and the team, because they did address the quarter to a half an inch, and the grinding does help. As I said, it does save money. We saved $100 because of that, and I think other houses do. So it's not against the DPW, and the complaints are not against the DPW. The problem is that with the council that is not listening to the town, the DPW is just doing the job. So I just want to clarify that. Second thing, yes, there is a solution to find a better price and stuff like that. I actually negotiated for 11 houses and got a group rate. So if I can, as a private resident, can get a better price, and actually we got a discount, like, compared to the old price, I got a $200 per slab discount. So it's not my job, but I did it because the town is failing to do their job. So yes, there is a solution to do a group rate, and there is a solution to take care of the residents and the older residents. I took care of our neighbor. She's 80 plus, and made sure that she got the best price and got a discount. She saved several $100s because of the group rate. So there is ways for the town to help the residents if you want to. Thank you.
Greg, Gramercy Place. I want to thank Bob Bono for coming here tonight and clarifying some things. I just don't know if this is happening. When I was on the shade tree with Bob Tesario, he used to give us an update. So I don't know if that can happen, like, oh, we took down this tree on Doremus, it had rot in the middle, you couldn't see that, it looked like a nice tree, healthy tree, things like that. Because the last I heard a few months ago, the shade tree wasn't getting these updates, or they weren't being told. It doesn't have to be like here or published on the town website or on the daily emails, but at least a shade tree should know what's going on, or something like an inventory of what, because that's what he would do. He'd come, we looked at a tree, we did this, we planted this tree, we're going to plant this many trees this year. So that's all, just about process and openness, open records, and just knowing what's going on. So that's the committee that's assigned to look over the trees in the town. So I think they should be informed of what's going on. That's all. Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to go into close to talk about contracts, personnel, and litigation?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And we're done. That's it. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.